Hi fellow YouTubers, it's Diogenes Lamp here. I just wanted to say hello and just tell you about my radio recapping, my first radio recapping, well, mostly. Anyway, so here's the story. Here's the victim, is my 1966, it basically is a General Electric AM/FM portable radio in very good condition. You can see the chrome is really sweet on this thing. And basically I just got done, taking care of most of the caps on it. So let me go through that with you real quick and tell you what I did. First of all, here are the old caps. There's 4 of the 5. Unfortunately, the 5th one, with my limited experience, I wasn't able to get to because it was hidden behind the tuner, and there was no way I was taking the tuner string off. But it was a small one. It was this. This is the one that basically was the one I didn't change. Well, hopefully it's not such a big deal, but I did change the actual ones that were leaking goo, which are these 200s, which were like registering like 200 on my super ESR meter, which seems to work pretty good. And then basically they all were out. They were like double what it says on the side of the the capacitor. But basically, I just want to show you a couple things else. What I did, these are called radial capacitors because the lines come out on one end. On a couple of them, like on these, I was only able to get this one, which is a 100. Sorry for being upside down. I can only get it with the one line coming out of each side. So basically what I did is I pulled a line down the side of it, stood it up, and I went over here, and I got some of my high-quality, genuine Harbor Freight heat shrink tubing. And what I did is I took the heat shrink tubing, and I didn't want to heat it on the actual components. What I did is I got a little lighter and just made it a little thinner, cut off a piece and put it down the side so it actually mounted on the side of it so that just in case it doesn't bump into something and ground. It worked great. Okay, so that's one thing. But I want to show you a couple other gadgets I have here. I was a little bit bummed out when Radio Shack closed, so I want to show you a couple things. This is a Radio Shack genuine pair of pliers from like 40 years ago that my mom bought me when I was a little kid, when I used to play with electrical stuff. So there you go, you find a pair of those. Actually, I think I might even have 2 pair of these. But those are from Radio Shack and made in Japan, see? Anyway, and then, of course, I didn't really need this device, which is called a desoldering vacuum bulb, which basically removes the solder. All I really had to do was tap the terminals and wiggle the old component and finally pull it out. And then when I go to stick the new one in, I lined up the 2 wires. As you can see, they got the wires sticking out of them. And just line up the 2 wires, heat the base, and just slip them through, and then put a little extra solder. I didn't really need my wetting tray for the tip cleaner, but that's also a Radio Shack item, along with the desoldering vacuum bulb. Actually, I don't know what happened to my original soldering iron, so I got this American-made one, which I'm very happy to see that. Look at that, American-made. So you might want to pick up one of those. I'm sure you could find it online. It worked superbly. I know you could use one of those pistol grip jobs with the dual headlights on it, but you know what? That makes too much heat, and you could damage the components. But talking about that, I got some other old school stuff here. These are genuine heat sinks that you take and clip on the component before you solder it, so it goes between the component and the actual soldered connection, and it actually pulls the heat away. I could solder so fast, from being able to, obviously I was soldering other things, but I'm just getting back to this hobby for 40 years, that I could solder very fast, so I don't really need these. But if you're doing something delicate like a transistor, you might want to use something like this. I'm sure you could find these out there. But these were from Radio Shack originals for probably, gotta be 35, 40 years ago. This one's got like a magnet on it, but I didn't use them. But I was getting ready to use them, but I didn't need them for today. Other things, this ESR meter that I have, it works good on electrolytics. I really bought it so I could change capacitors in like tube radios. But guess what? On those real low capacitance things, it just shows open. But it was handy in this project because I could see how far out the other ones were, and I checked the new ones to make sure that they were in line. Because you don't want to go putting a part in if you didn't test it, because it could be defective, and then you put it in, and taking it in and putting it out is not a great thing. But anyway, also I saved these little wires from some of the longs, because sometimes if you have a bad a printed circuit, you could run a jumper with one of these, and instead of trying to use solder or a regular wire, So I'm going to save those for future use and other projects. But anyway, I just wanted to show you my General Electric radio. It does play well. I'm not going to play it right now because it's inside the garage. It doesn't play so good in the garage if it's something to do with the fluorescent lights in here. But I have the case for it. I've had this a good while, this radio. I picked it up on eBay. But it's a neat performer, and it definitely was getting kind of messed up with the caps from being a 1966 radio. So as you can see, they were leaking. They're pretty cheesy over, especially these large ones. They got like goo coming out of them. You could see it there. But anyway, that's it. So I just wanted to give you an update and tell you that I'm depressed about Radio Shack closing. But what are you going to do? I guess you have to move on with your life and find another electronics store, which I did. There's a great place called that I bought some of these parts from. It's called Greenbrook Electronics in Greenbrook, New Jersey. And they're real nice guys there. So if you ever need any parts, stop down and visit them. And they're helpful. Even for $1 part, they're going to help you try to find it. So that's... they're decent guys. Anyway, that's all. So comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.